The biggest opportunity in crypto is yield farming. Now, in this recent video by Taiki Maeda, he interviews 0x Law, and he goes into how he turned $5,000 into $10 million yield farming. So we're going to learn about yield farming. I'm going to show you a few different protocols to get started with, how it works, and different conditions you can use them in. But from 0x Law, he had a very specific investing strategy of no meme coins leverage or bag holding, farm airdrops, Sybil when possible, extract as much value as you can, sell airdrops, hold stable coins, and with that method, you'll have no negative months in crypto. We don't do that here because we're very high risk, and we also aren't high reward because it doesn't always work out in our favor, but I'm going to show you some different protocols to get started with yield farming. And of course, there are risks involved, so this video is for entertainment and educational purposes. Please invest at your own risk. With that, I'm Dan, and let's dive in. First off, what is yield farming? We go to our buddy Google because Google knows everything. Yield farming is a decentralized finance strategy where crypto holders deposit their assets into liquidity pools to earn rewards such as trading fees, interest, or new tokens. And when they say new tokens, that's maybe when you're farming an airdrop for a new protocol, which can be lucrative sometimes, terrible other times, depending on the situation. So we're going to look at a couple of these examples and different ways you can earn rewards as a yield farmer and different conditions you'll be using these in. Now, to get started, we will be using DeFi, decentralized finance, and depending on where we do our yield farming, we're going to need the right wallet. This isn't an ad or anything. I'm just saying there are 3 wallets that are pretty much compatible with everything. That's Coinbase Wallet, Rabby Wallet, and MetaMask. These will cover you in most EVM chains, and if we're going to use something like Sui, we would want to use Slush Wallet. And that just means you are going to need to know how to navigate through these different blockchains to unlock these opportunities. If you have a specific question in mind, let me know in the comments and we can address that in a live stream, or maybe I'll make a short video and I'll tag you in it. Now let's just say you want to earn interest and not take on too much risk. There are a couple opportunities out there. The Hyperliquid Vault pays out about 7%, the JLP Pool pays about 17%, and the Paradex Gigavault pays out 35% at the moment, but they are at their TVL cap. So maybe you want to get started with Paradex and unlock some of these opportunities. Now to simplify that process, you are depositing stablecoins and you're earning interest in those stablecoins. Now, Hyperliquid, Jupiter, and Paradex are very established and have a reputation, but let's figure out how some of them can have an APR of 35%. So first off, we see that they are at a TVL limit. That means there's a limit of how much funds can be in this vault, because if we double the amount of funds in this vault, the APR would be cut in half because more of those rewards are being split among a larger pool of funds. So let's figure out how this works. The liquidity provider vault powers liquidity across all Paradex perpetual markets through advanced market making strategies while accruing platform fees. So basically that $50 million is used to fund the liquidity in all these different vaults, and whenever someone gets liquidated and makes a bad trade, that money goes back into the Gigavault, rewarding the users that have deposited to it. So that's essentially how you can get high APR in these situations. Basically, you need a capped amount of funds that can be deposited and enough trading volume to earn fees that can go back to those people with that money. And we're going to see this in a couple different ways throughout this video. Now, besides stablecoin farming, there is another version of staking where you can get rewards through yield optimizers. And this one is called yo.xyz, YO yield optimizer. So I know the interest rates don't look crazy high, 4% on ETH, 3% on Bitcoin, stablecoins, 10%, euros, 6%. But there's no token yet. So that is the opportunity to farm points on newer protocols, because maybe you're getting 4% APY on Ethereum, but the unknown amount that you might get from the airdrop could be pretty high. So the opportunity in yield farming is being early to establish platforms that are safe, that are going to have an airdrop where you can earn points towards that, and then the unknown amount that you might get for that. So maybe we're getting 4% on our Ethereum, maybe we're getting 400%. We don't know how much this airdrop is going to be worth. Now, there are additional ways to earn points. Obviously, we could just hold ETH in our wallet. That'll earn us some points, but there are also other ways to leverage that amount. There are also points markets out there. So if we go into Pendle, this is just another way to either buy the yield of that token, which accrues a lot of points, or if we want to buy the principal token, PTYT. Now, if you are a yield farmer, maybe you just want to earn the yield. Maybe you don't want to take a chance on the points. Maybe you don't believe that the airdrop is going to cook, so that's your opportunity there. If you think it's going to be a massive airdrop and it's being underfarmed, then maybe you want to farm those points, the yield token, to get additional points. So that is a strategy. And with Pendle, there is a points market where you can see some visualizations of new projects where you can get additional points for participating in these products, where you can see USD you can get a fixed yield of 20% on your stables, or you can get the LP yield of 23%. And again, if there is an airdrop, we don't know how much that's going to be worth. So we scroll down, we can see that there are a lot of different opportunities with different protocols, with different blockchains. You see Ethereum, BNB, you see Base here, and Pendle allows you to split the yield between the principal and the yield. Because Pendle makes it possible to split up the yield from the principal and the interest you would get from that principal into different tokens and tokenomics. Basically, it's just another layer of DeFi that helps you earn points and speculate on airdrops. So trading points is another opportunity to be early to some of these new protocols that have point programs. Now, if you watch this channel, I have been farming Yo.xyz and Paradex for a few months. I do have referral links in the description, and you can see I have millions of points, and I did this with less than 1.5 ETH. I did most of the points through the yield token in Pendle, and that was pretty good. That got me a lot of different points, and there are different opportunities, and I think the amount of TVL on Yield Optimizer is still pretty low, so I'm pretty sure this airdrop is going to cook. I am going to update you guys, so make sure you are subscribed. And you can see here that the expiration is September 25. So we'll likely see an airdrop after that date because points have accrued, or we're just going to see another ETH product in Pendle very soon. Now let's take a look at liquidity providing and the different ways to earn from it. Now, for example, we're going to be looking at Momentum Finance, MMT.finance. This is a decentralized exchange on Sui, and they haven't launched a token yet. So you're being early, you're getting rewards for their potential airdrop, and they make it a point to display that. So we see a few different liquidity pools here. We are going to sort this by APR, and we're going to figure out how much we can actually earn and understand what are we looking at here. There's so many things here. So we can see the different pools. Deprecated means no longer available, and we see the very top one right now with 1300% APR, lo-fi to sweet. So if you want to participate in this pool, you would need two tokens. You would need the lo-fi token and you would need the sweet token. Then we have 1%. So that means anytime someone trades against this pool, you are earning 1% in trading fees. So that is pretty lucrative. That's why it has the higher rate. And you can see that if you are trading against Double Up, you would be earning 2% in fees. That is what the fees are set, with additional rewards in bricks, which is the point system for Momentum Finance. Now, we also got to look at TVL volume and fees, because that's how the APR is calculated over the last 24 hours. This can change very quickly because Maybe people don't want to trade it. Maybe more people want to trade it. It all depends on different market conditions. So if we're looking at TVL, we have $370,000, $60,000 in 24-hour volume, generating $613 in fees. Now, let's say the TVL doubled. Someone just deposited a lot more money into this pool. This APR would be cut in half. Now, let's say the volume doubled. Well, then this APR would double. The fees would double. So the amount you're getting really depends on trading volume. If all things just go sideways, you would be earning a lot in interest. Now, that interest rate sounds fantastic, but we also have to understand how much risk are we taking in this pool. So let's say everything goes sideways. The price of lo-fi stays the same, the price of Sui stays the same. We are just raking in money from trading fees. That is an ideal situation. But let's say lo-fi Sui, if lo-fi stays the same and Sui dumps in price, then we are going to take on some losses. If lo-fi pumps up and Sui stays the same price, then we would miss out some gains. If lo-fi and Sui both go up at the same time, at the same rate, let's say they both go up by 20% in value, then that is a great situation to be in. We still have full exposure to our tokens. We get the benefits of them going up while also earning interest. So depending on the situation, if you are going to get into one of these liquidity pools, you have to consider what you're holding and the risk of that. If you're holding a coin that could dump very quickly, that is not something I would want to take a lot of risk in. And there are different ways to really capitalize on these opportunities, as well as how you set the liquidity range, because that is another level that we're going to get into a little bit later. But yeah, we just want to understand these different things we're looking at. You can see in the up sweep pair, even though that the exchange rate is at 2%, the TVL at about $61,000. Volume was only 240 bucks on Momentum Finance. There are other different decentralized exchanges available, and that resulted in less than $5 in fees. So sometimes a pair isn't really getting as much access if the fee is too high, and maybe traders are going to other exchanges to get their full value. So even though that the APR looks fantastic, sometimes it doesn't meet our expectations if fees are too high or if there just isn't any trading volume for that coin. So when we're getting started with liquidity pools, if you're not familiar with what you're doing, you might just want to get started with it slowly and have a thesis. Sideways is ideal, but if something might pump or dump, that could potentially set you back. Maybe you'll earn significantly less than you expected and potentially even lose money. So that is essentially how you look at liquidity pools on any decentralized exchange. This includes Uniswap and other DEXs out there. Whenever you add liquidity, looking at the TVL, volume, fees generated, and APR is something you're going to want to do before depositing your assets. Now let's add some liquidity to start earning fees. Let's say I want to hold Walrus and Sui and I want to add some liquidity there. We can jump into the liquidity page and we can set a price range. We can set it to 1%, which is very aggressive, but we would be accruing all the fees in that range. By setting it to a very tight range, whenever the pair trades, we would be accruing fees. If we have a much wider range, we won't be getting as much fees, but we'll still have some of that impact right there when it trades. Now, let's say we are at 1%. If it goes outside of this range, we're going to lose out on that earning potential and we won't be earning fees anymore. So let's say Walrus pumps up in price and Sui stays the same. Well, that's going to move our price range outside of range. And due to this, we won't be earning fees anymore. On the other side of that, if Sui pumps up in price and Walrus doesn't, or even goes down in price, we won't be making any fees. So the easiest thing you could do is full range, But at the same time, you won't be earning as much. If you're looking at the high APR, you're probably looking at this range here where you have full access to getting those rewards. So for myself, I kind of like the 5% range, but we know it's crypto, things are volatile, that can change very, very quickly. So sometimes you want full range, sometimes you want something custom, sometimes you want to modify it yourself. Adding liquidity and getting the most value out of that is a tricky thing that there isn't really a system to it. I'm surprised that we don't have any AI bots doing this yet, but managing liquidity to get the most value from trading is a skill. You could actually make a lot this way if you're very active and you just keep moving that range depending on the conditions, just so you keep accruing those fees. Now, if the price pumps up very quickly for SWI, for example, we would sell our SWI and have Walrus instead in that condition, because whenever you have a liquidity pool, it's going to keep balancing that. And sometimes it has to sell off all your assets that are pumping to buy the one that is underperforming. And if we go outside that price range, then we're no longer adding fees. So that is just something to consider. So if you're new to this, take it slowly, and maybe you do want full range if it's something you don't want to be looking at all the time. So for this example, we'll set it to 5%. We can add as much of our assets as we want. This is a test wallet, and I'm going to hit add liquidity. You can see here potential coin outflow. We are moving out our Walrus tokens and our SWI. We're going to approve that transaction, and instantly done. Our liquidity has been added to momentum. We are earning fees as long as that price stays within that range. Now let's say we're doing some yield farming on SWI. Maybe we're getting 2.8% through Suilend. Maybe we're earning more by using a liquid staked token, Spring SWI or SWI, that's 3.45%. And you can see the different interest rates for depositing and borrowing. Now, there are looping strategies to these lending protocols where you would deposit an asset, you would borrow against it, and you would deposit it again to earn even more interest. But Suilend has introduced something called strategies where it just does that for you. It does the looping for you so you can earn the most interest. So let's say you want to earn more SWI, you can get a max APR of 12.6%, which does come at some risk, of course. And how this works is you take your SWI, you deposit it into Suilend strategies here, and it would convert that into Spring SWI or SWI. Now you have collateral on the platform, you borrow against that, you borrow SWI, and then it deposits it back in as Spring SWI, and it does that several more times. That's called a looping. Now, that might sound confusing to you, but it does that for you. It does the looping. All you do is deposit SWI, and you would be getting 12.65% APR. That can fluctuate depending on the market conditions. But of course, there's also risks when you use any type of DeFi. These are the standard DeFi risks. There are liquidation risks. If you borrow too much and you don't have enough collateral, you get liquidated. There's also smart contract risks. Let's say there is a vulnerability in the smart contract and you get hacked. Well, maybe not you specifically, but the entire platform, making you lose all your funds. This has happened many times in DeFi, not just on SWI, not just on Ethereum, on every blockchain. So you have to be very careful, as well as bridge hacks. A really bad bridge hack can collapse an entire blockchain. So when you're getting into DeFi, you just have to understand nothing is guaranteed. You are taking a risk for participating in these platforms. You are trusting these protocols to say, hey, I'm going to secure your money. I'm going to make sure it's not at risk while I'm doing all these different things to earn you yield. So remember that if you are going to get started with any of these platforms, and only risk what you can afford to lose. At least that's what I'm doing. I've seen those hacks before. I've seen all these different ways people lose money, and we always want to diversify and take very, very affordable risks. And the last part here, Oracle risks, depending on the strategy, doesn't apply to Spring SWI, the liquid stake token, and the looping strategy. Basically, if you are doing leveraged lending on a protocol and the oracle updates the price incorrectly, there are liquidation risk. It could read the value of your assets incorrectly. Maybe it says you're undervalued, has to liquidate assets so you have enough collateral to maintain your borrow rate. I know, sounds super confusing, but take it slow, and then those risks will become more clear. You're not going to be an expert at yield farming immediately, but these are just different ways to get started earning yields on multiple blockchains, multiple ways, and this might be already too much information. Let me know in the comments if there's something specifically you want to dig into, and we can always do that on a live stream, and questions can be answered there. So if this video was helpful, you know what to do. I gotta hit the like button, comment, subscribe, stuff like that. And with that, I hope you got your full value for today. Also, if you want to get started with some of the things I'm already using, links in the description.